Welcome, sentient beings from all known universes and beyond. It's time to activate your cranial downlinks and prepare to receive a raft of discussion on a cosmic ocean of science fiction and fantasy topics, interviews with local area genre devotees, and insightful prognostication by our soothsayers of science fiction, our forecasters of fantasy, and any other beings that happen to get caught in our gravity well. This is the Galactic Driftwood Podcast.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Galactic Driftwood Podcast. I'm Bill.
I'm Linda.
I'm Charles.
I'm Seth.
I'm Chris.
And we're going to be talking about streaming services today. There's been a little bit in the news about streaming services and especially Netflix having lost a bunch of subscribers, supposedly, according to what we're hearing. But that may or may not be the case. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, well, they did lose a lot of subscribers, and not just subscribers, but if people are invested in Netflix, you lost nearly 40% of your stock value recently. It's been a little bit crazy, and people kind of have this knee-jerk reaction. So what Netflix announced recently, which is I think the first time in their history, is they lost a couple 100,000 subscribers this past quarter, and they're projected to lose up to well over 1 million additional subscribers going out through the next quarter. So people are kind of freaking out. What's going on? What is Netflix doing about it? And why are they struggling a little bit? And I think there's a couple different ways to view it. I think there's a whole combination of problems. But we can start with talking about the content. Right? Do we like what we're watching on Netflix and the shows that we do have? I personally take huge issue with a lot of series that end up getting canceled after a while or just not committing to them. I think we all have shows where we experience that, and they just get canceled. As I've seen, Stranger Things is one of the ones that they hold on to that keeps going, but you can't rest your platform on like 5 shows maybe that you're not going to cancel. You don't give yourself time to build up a fan base if you're just going to go. And why does anyone want to get invested in anything if you're just going to walk away from it later?
Right. And it seems to me that they waste a lot of money, especially it can't be cheap to start up a sci-fi series. It's one thing if you're doing maybe a Western where you've got ready access to a lot of Western type props, or you can be out on a ranch somewhere with horses, but in the sci-fi world you've got to create expensive sets, whether it's space stations or spaceships or alien planets or whatever. You don't just go out into the Montana countryside and start filming a sci-fi series unless maybe you're
Bill Hedges.
Bill Hedges or you're that Dust Sci-Fi network, right? I have to admit to getting kind of turned off a little gun shy to watch new series, because you hate to get that investment in the series and then have it only go for a season. And at the end of the first season, there's so many unanswered questions because they were hoping for a second season, and then the second season never comes. And you're like, well, that's a bunch of crap. So now you kind of want to hold off and wait until you're 2 or 3 seasons in to start watching a new series, because then at least you think, okay, well, maybe this is going to be around for a while. I don't know, Charles, if you've had a similar experience with that, or.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. No, you got me thinking about some back in the olden days for me. No, but before online streaming, there was, and this was on the West Coast. There was a video store. It wasn't a chain or anything. It was a private. It was some guy just decided this is what he was doing, but it was quite expensive to belong to it. But what it was old movies. It was anything that had won an Oscar. He had. And then he had all the books about the movies in the store also. So you'd go in like I said, it was real expensive to belong. It was like, for me anyway at the time. I remember it was like a $50 investment or something. At the time that was horrible. And
right.
But for a Friday night, you could go in, you look through these movie books, you chat with a few people, you chat with him. Everybody there's a movie expert,
Yeah.
And then you'd walk away and you'd watch some horrible old movie. but it was, you'd watch some black and white flick or something. That usually is what but it was an experience.
Yeah, sure.
And there's been very little. There's some of this online. Netflix, there's none of this for the most part.
Right.
But I remember you had a film education for the money you spent. And
it sort of gave you a little investment kind of behind the scenes and a little more information about the movie you're about to watch and
what happened to the actors or what kind of trouble did they have, and you had all of that before even
right.
Or what was
it
the
sort of made an
inspiration
experience about it.
And so there's very little of that online period right now.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a little. I found not on Netflix. I found there's a couple of offshoots, but there's been one or two good movies, and then and so I don't know. I understand, because I was thinking of unjoining Netflix too for a couple of months, just because why not?
Right.
And if I'm spending money on other venues, and I have my system of everything except for Netflix and Amazon. If I sign up for a month, the next day I unsign up, just so that I don't.
Right.
That's what I do. This way it doesn't continue. So I have a month of watching. Yeah, and I have to remember to sign up again if I want to, see the.
So then you try to binge everything that you want to see on that particular streaming service in that month that you've just paid for, right?
Well, yeah. I wait until there's something I want to see on it. And
right.
Then if there's some side shows that interest me, then so be it. And of course, in the spring, it's a hard time to watch. It's a hard.
I know. There's so much going on, right? And I have one. Yeah, and I half wonder if part of the Netflix drop is due to spring and summer coming, and people are thinking they're going to be more outdoors more and have less time for that streaming.
Well, especially now, people really want to get out. I mean, people have been kind of cooped up for the last couple of years, so there's definitely an increase of that as well.
It's a horrible cabin fever. Yeah,
and I'm sure, Seth, you've got experience with some series that you probably got into that were suddenly canceled.
Just a little bit, like Firefly. Anyone?
More recent one for me is Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, I was also going to say Cowboy Bebop, but I can't resist the.
Yeah. Firefly has got to be. We got to hold on to that one.
Yeah.
Never let
your audio's a little hot.
Oh.
But
then so Seth. So
Well, and Linda, anything you've started watching that didn't last long that you were? I know you've been big into Yellowstone, which is good. And then you started, what is that, 1889 or?
That's Paramount Network, though.
Yeah, but
still relevant. But
but those are still streaming, right?
1883. And they will. I mean, I think Yellowstone is still up like the most popular series of all streaming services. So that's not going to go away anytime soon.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but on that note, that seems to be the benchmark, right? If you're not a top 2 or 3 among streaming services, you get canceled.
You're axed.
And I don't understand that mentality. You don't. What about for those of us that aren't watching Yellowstone? I'm not watching it. I could care less. I'm not saying it's not good. I'm just not watching it right now. That's not my draw to like Paramount or anything like that. I'm on Paramount for other series like the Star Trek films and series that I can watch there. I'm on Hulu for whatever various things that I can't find anywhere else. I have access one way through another. Shared account or not, who knows?
Right.
We'll talk about that a little bit too. And ultimately, I want those shows to continue. That's entertainment for me. If I get bored of one thing, I want to have an option. I don't want what everyone else is watching. That's not a way to go about it. That's not, diversification in your streaming portfolio. That's garbage is what that is.
Well, I mean, that's kind of the old cable mentality.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there's no other. We're the only option. We're the only game in town. These are what we're going to show.
Yeah.
Tune in for the ads, or it gets the axe.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, you're still a little hot, Seth.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Hey,
It is like just by a smidge.
I remember when we used to just have 3 channels, and you had to watch what they served you.
Yes, I can't imagine. Well, how much money would I have wasted if I'd waited for the last season of Dexter on Showtime?
Yeah. There's that too. I think. On the money aspect, the other complaint that people have is they're saying Netflix's prices are too high.
Yeah.
And
they have gone up.
They are
gone up. It's $20 a month now.
Yep.
But there's different things that these services are offering, right? Netflix may not have the latest and greatest season available to you, but they have a very broad spectrum of content.
Right.
And that content isn't just US based. I mean, in the EU and in Japan and other regions of the world, and it used to be there was a way, I don't know if it's still doable, but you could actually go into Netflix and find a way to change your region. And it would actually give you different content based off the region that you were showing. So Netflix's library is vast. And on that note, I'd argue that they're not too expensive. They're going against the grain of this race to the cheapest service,
right? To
finding a way to build content and continue to pay the licensing for that broad amount of content that they have. One distinguished thing I would say is they're not Paramount. They're not I don't want to say Hulu, but a lot like Disney Plus, right? Disney Plus, Paramount, HBO Max. These are services that traditionally came off of from things like cable networks, and they have their own content library already. Netflix brought in a lot of those other platforms into Netflix so that people could stream them on there and watch other movies and stuff. Netflix doesn't have a history of having its own library of content. They've had to build from the ground up. That's going to cost more. So I'd argue that, the platform should cost more. They are paying for licensing and they're building content. It's not like Disney, where Disney found a way for all of us to repay what we probably already bought in the past through VHS, DVD, or whatever they re-released every 10 years. Disney's found a way to keep you paying for the same stuff.
Exactly.
It has really no value for them. They're just like, we put our library up here now, and now we're going to charge you whatever, and everybody's going to pay for that. Let's see what happens to Disney in 15 years. Are people still going to be paying the same price?
Right. Right.
Netflix has got a lot more to do.
And Netflix had, they had The Expanse originally. Yeah. And they ran that for 2 or 3 seasons, I think 3. And it was doing well, and it was very, very popular sci-fi series, but they decided it wasn't popular enough for them to continue paying for it. And then Amazon picked it up, and so now it's on Amazon Prime. And fortunately I have memberships to both, but there's a prime example of Netflix getting rid of a show that was hugely popular, and that ended up being picked up by a different service. So you have to wonder sometimes, what is their criteria as to what they consider
whatever
to be
it
a
is, it's
successful
wrong.
show.
Whatever the criteria is wrong, because they cannot afford to let content go and competitors pick it up.
Right. It could be though that their CEO wasn't interested in shooting himself off into space.
Well, so here's true. I think the big difference here is that like every other streaming service was either a pre-existing like a premium channel, or where you'd go to watch these movies, and who Netflix has essentially kind of kicked off their high horse on cable, or they're a major production house.
Like Amazon doesn't need revenue from their Literally, they do not need revenue from their video services.
No, right.
Between Amazon Web Services, between their umbrella and their shipping and all the money they make on their online marketplace, they do not need the revenue. So everything is just bonus on the Prime Video side, and everyone who's subscribed as a Amazon Prime, user. So they're collecting their money one way or another. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that we see happening is like with studios like Paramount, for example, used to be that Netflix had all of the Star Trek series, the series from like, Next Gen and Voyager and DS9 on backwards. Yep. But now that Paramount's got their Paramount Plus streaming service, they've begun pulling that content back in-house, so you can only get it there.
Same thing with all the Marvel, DC stuff. All of that stuff gets pulled out.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying about Netflix, is that they don't own the original content for any of these, and all the different production houses are like, well, we'll just do this ourselves, take it back, and then we can have a slice of that Netflix pie. Where Netflix, to survive, has to keep coming out with high quality shows, and they might have a much tighter boots or a much tighter
margin
of error for like when something is profitable for them to keep and when they have to drop it, and it might be production values versus eyes on the screen, and if it doesn't meet something, it's got to go because it's not getting enough people watching versus the cost of its making.
And I'd argue that their metric on that is off, because sometimes it takes a while for something to become, a cult classic or
I mean, look at Seinfeld. Seinfeld, for example.
Yeah, Seinfeld. And so with The Expanse, what Netflix can't afford to do is to give away their original content or cancel it, because they're losing stuff on the licensing side.
Yeah.
So if anything, they should continue to grow the library, whether people are watching it or not, because when it starts to pick up traction, they're going to be the ones with all that content, regardless of whether Paramount pulls their stuff or Marvel or DC. I keep Netflix around because I like the fact that they have a lot of foreign shows that are dubbed, or I like thrillers, murder mysteries, broad range of things. Obviously, a ton of sci-fi. But Netflix is the only place I can go to get something that was made in, I don't know, well, any other country, literally in another language, and hopefully it's dubbed.
Sure.
Well, some of them are not. But it's the only place I can get that content. And that's where Netflix, I think, derives a lot of its value. You can have those made for Netflix anywhere in the world and get access to it these days.
Mm-hmm.
But, they've been at this long enough, but one of the problems, the first into a market, and I would consider Netflix the first, always has the problem of they're the ones that spent money on mistakes.
Right. True.
Everybody coming up now. I don't know what that matters to me, because I don't like having sympathy for corporations, but it doesn't. But that is an issue. I'm sure they've made mistakes that, if they had it to do over again, but they were the first in.
Yeah.
I think Netflix should be investing a lot more in your film festivals, your local colleges that have people coming up with their own type of films to get that exposure out there. I think that would also help its user base.
Right.
A ton.
Yeah, I know for a long time, because Netflix had all the Star Trek content, and I'm a huge Star Trek fan. When Star Trek Discovery started airing, in the United States, you could only get it on, at the time, it was CBS All Access, which morphed into Paramount Plus. So you had to have a CBS All Access subscription to see it here in the United States. But the rest of the world could get it free if you already had a Netflix subscription. It was included with your Netflix subscription. So for the longest time, we have a whole house VPN here. So I would just change my VPN to make it appear as if I was in England, so then I could get on Netflix and watch Discovery. But as Paramount Plus instantiated out of CBS All Access, and then they began pulling all the Star Trek content back, it didn't make sense for me to continue doing that anymore. So, I ended up biting the bullet and getting the Paramount Plus subscription. So that could be impacting a lot of Netflix as well, because now if you can only get that content on Paramount Plus, you can't get it on Netflix, then that alleviates yet another reason to be on Netflix. So
let's pivot a tiny bit on the subscriber loss. So how is Netflix going to fix this issue going forward? And one of the things their CEO recently said they're going to start focusing on, which they've largely ignored, which I frankly thought was kind of to their benefit, is people sharing accounts. Right.
They had to come something.
Wait, people do that?
Right? But as much as there's a couple different views I've seen on it. One is that's what made Netflix so great. The other is, it's too little too late. Why weren't they, focusing on this before? They've known it's been a thing. But I'd argue so did all the other streaming services.
Right.
I don't know, like Hulu recently started cracking down, but not to a large extent as you'd think. So if you had Hulu, like live TV service, I think it is, they did crack down to where only one household can utilize that TV streaming service, and it has to be registered there. So if anyone else tries to use Hulu Live TV and another house, it'll pop up and say, hey, we noticed your location has changed. Would you like to switch your live TV to this location? But that's only for the live TV aspect. The rest of it, as far as your TV shows or whatever, they've kind of let slide. They just haven't cracked down on that yet. So there seems to be different takes on how different streaming services are dealing with it. I don't know that Amazon does anything about it at this time. Hulu's been working on it. Netflix apparently is going to start cracking down on the sharing of accounts. I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a bad thing? Do you think it'll fix companies' streaming subscribers?
I wonder in the case of Amazon, if they don't have to worry about it as much because of, people don't necessarily want to give their Amazon Prime membership account number to just anybody, right? Mm-hmm. Because
it's a model that kind of fixes itself.
Yeah, right. Mm-hmm. Because you don't want people ordering a bunch of stuff on your Amazon account, right? Whereas the other streaming services don't really have the giant Amazon superstore in the cloud.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of different places kind of solve that by letting you put family in. So they've got a certain number of profiles that you can put someone on as in your family and they can use it. That to me seems like an ideal way. It's kind of a 50-50. You can share your account, but maybe don't share it with 20 people.
Yeah. So you're limited to 4 or 5 or whatever on depending on the service, I guess, of profiles, right?
But my view is when companies start cracking down on people, they're not gonna get those other people back.
Right.
I think they're more likely to lose customers through a crackdown than to increase the amount of money they get.
Yeah, and I think the difference there would be shown by the number of subscriptions versus the number of people watching a specific show. So you may see no change in subscriptions, but yet the viewership for certain shows will drop substantially if those people get kicked off. And then suddenly you're looking at it. I mean, I wonder how that would have impacted Game of Thrones, for example, because I think during that time there was a ton. It was such a popular show, just everywhere, that I imagine there was just a ton of sharing of subscription information so that people could watch that all over the place. And then suddenly if you cut that off and the number of viewers of that show drops, then is that show still considered a number one show? Because in my mind, the show, I would think their algorithm would say the show has to be popular enough to bring in new subscribers. And if we're not seeing the subscriber base go up, just the viewership go up, then that's not making us more money.
And I think, Bill, you might have kind of hit on one of the points there or close to what I feel one of the points is, in that when you're sharing passwords or sharing accounts and not like doing something like the family thing where they're separated out, what we're actually doing is muddying the data that is actually valuable to them.
Although I've got to say, I doubt that. At one point, Netflix was an original commodity.
As near as I can tell, they still are.
Well, they've got competition.
Okay, I was going to say they just aren't owned by anyone.
Right. But they've got competition now. And the other thing that I suspect has happened, which is because they have competition, the cost of a stupid movie has gone up. An old movie that you have in your library. I mean, it just has to have. Which before they were getting them, 5 cents a movie. But now these other services want a library also.
They want a bigger piece of the pie, probably.
And I'm sure in the background there's stuff like that happening on top of it. They're just going to blame it on the consumer because that's fun for businesses to do.
Yeah.
So
I like to pretend it. But it's a short-sightedness. To me, it's not going to be. I don't really think it's a consumer issue. It's somewhere in the background. It's short-sightedness on either Netflix's part or the investors' part. People that pulled their money, not realizing until just now that the market was going to be split.
Right. Yeah. All right, Linda, you had something?
Anyway.
According to the Washington Post, it says in March, Netflix began trials in Chile, Peru, and Costa Rica that allowed members to pay $3 to add sub-accounts for users who don't live with them. It's also allowing users in those countries to enable others who share their accounts to transfer profiles and viewing history. So it looks like they were trying, at least in March, to try something different.
That's because they knew what was coming on their stock price after losing those subscribers. They had to start looking at something.
Yeah,
and I think that makes sense. Like, you're not going to be able to stop people from sharing things, or if you're going to try and do that, it's going to cause more harm. So what you want to do is figure out a way that you can still make money when people are sharing things, because most people will tend to try and share and not go outside of the rules.
Right.
If it doesn't hurt.
Like if you have the option to share your account for $3, that's just asking your buddy for $3 and he can have your password.
Yeah.
Right.
Or an account on your Netflix.
Right. That seems reasonable. I mean, certainly cheaper than buying your own.
And it's not just Netflix, because it looks like didn't CNN just start a digital?
It's already dead.
It didn't even last.
On that note, so CNN, they did a CNN Plus streaming service. I think for the first month they had less than 10,000 subscribers, and it's already dead. They killed it before the first month was even over.
Right.
And that's something that I wasn't aware that was an offering.
I know, right?
Until it was dead.
Some news agency.
And to that point, it never got time to get traction. Somebody looked at that stat and said, look, we're going to start a streaming service. We're going to get like $1 million a month. It's going to be great. And they started it, and I saw zero marketing on it, or they didn't get it out to where people could actually see it.
Yeah, the first thing I heard of it was it failing.
Until you just now mentioned it, I'd never heard of it.
Yeah. And so on that note, whoever's looking at the metrics from that, they have zero patience.
Right.
Okay. These are people that want instant results, and in an economy where things are taking time, where things are shifting. through the pandemic and the shift of people. We talked about earlier. People having this massive cabin fever, right? And wanting to get out now that spring's coming around. It's going to be slow. You couldn't have launched it at a worse time. You should have launched it in winter,
right?
when people had nowhere to go, or you should have launched it. It's too little, too late. So, I don't know where this ad is or where they think that I'm going to see it, but I didn't.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And I mean,
because I definitely would have subscribed to something like that if I didn't know it was out there.
If I known it was there, because then I don't have to buy a full cable subscription just to get content.
Right.
I know. I was gonna say, that sort of thing would actually appeal to me if I had a streaming service for the news source that I prefer or whatever.
Yep.
I don't.
Insane.
And it definitely depends on what sort of content they'd put on there too. There's.
Yeah.
Well, they said notably the service was conceived and developed under CNN's former owner, Warner Media, but launched just days before Discovery Inc.'s long gestating acquisition of the company. So the new guy was like, let's give it a couple of weeks. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, well, and here's the thing. It was $5.99 per month. For me, that was worth a subscription, or $60 for the full year.
Yeah.
You're telling me I don't have to pay $60 to $100 a month to get a bunch of stuff I don't want to get a handful of chat. This is what we want. We want a la carte. This is a la carte news right here.
Yeah, this is exactly
it within 30 days.
Well,
this
doesn't
is
Fox have some streaming?
What's that?
Say again, Bud?
Doesn't Fox have a streaming service? Fox News?
I think they do, but I thought
Fox Now or something.
I don't know that you had. I don't know that you could pay for it directly, or you had to have a cable
package.
You can still have that package.
Fox Nation.
Yeah. So Fox has to rely on its audience of grandmas and grandpas to figure out how to set up a streaming service on their on the TV that their kids got them.
Exactly.
So can we pull up? I have a link that was sent from Money Gink with the list of the subscriptions, and I have a question for our viewers before we wrap up here. Can we pull up that? It had the list of all the streaming services and the
8 top videos. Okay, hang on.
Yep.
Oh, hold on.
There's a lot out there, and it includes some with they all basically, to be clear, pretty much every service out there in their house has their own original content, including Netflix. We talked about that a little bit. Some of these have 0 ads, some have ads, most notably Hulu. You can pay to have ads or you not have ads. Netflix has 0 ads, so they don't have that revenue stream.
Damn it.
It's playing I don't want to load today.
It is.
But this link that'll come up here in a second has the top 8 video streaming services and what their costs are. Scroll down a little bit, and then that list should expand a little bit. But you've got Netflix, Disney Plus, Apple TV, Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, Sling, YouTube TV, and HBO Max. And I've delved through pretty much all of these, but at what point when we look at these prices is too much for you guys?
Yeah,
I don't.
And we can add
think
this link into the stream as well. So
well, I will say YouTube TV at $65 a month is no.
Yeah, it's basically like going back to regular cable. Early 2000s pricing there or whatever. So, and I don't know who's paying for YouTube Originals. I don't know what kind of value, if anything, there is on that. When I think of streaming services, I don't think YouTube Originals. So somehow you're paying $65 for live TV only there, and maybe they're missing some other benefits of that YouTube TV service. Maybe it removes the ads, but I don't know. I'm not a fan of it.
Hulu's no better.
Yeah,
$75.99.
Hulu's no better. They do include DVR services and some other things, but that also fluctuates in the cost. You can pay for how much you want to record. So
why do you need DVR anymore?
Yeah, I don't know. So for the live TV that's not replayed, I guess. If you're recording sports or something, go sports, go.
Yeah.
So these are the prices. Is pretty much up to date, even down to Netflix now being $20 a month. But what I'd ask our audience, what services do you subscribe to? Are you into sharing, and how much is too much?
Right.
For me personally, $20 a month for Netflix, I still don't view that as overpriced personally, because I look at it in terms of, I never have to worry about ads.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, there's a sharing capability with family, and ultimately,
and they have a lot.
Their library is pretty broad. It's not the broadest library. It does. That's just a fact. So
they also have the basic plan level, which is just for one streaming device. But is there any content you're locked out of at the basic level?
It's not content, but you do not get, I think, 4K streaming. I think it does actually impact quality as well. I think that's a bit petty at this point. I think they should all be 4K at a minimum. But yeah,
I don't know. I'm going to throw in that just yesterday there was a documentary I was interested in, and I ended up watching, because the only place that had it was a service called Freebie. We had to watch commercials. And so that's part of the reason I was going, well, I don't know if that, if I'm going to end up, especially since I feel like over the last 2 years, because of the pandemic and stuff, I've overwatched TV.
Yeah.
That if I'm going to be watching something that's going to be very specific right now, and if it's not on Netflix or not on Prime, then what am I? Well, Prime I'm going to keep anyway, but why not let it go for 6 months?
Right.
I'm not. It's summer.
Right.
I
True.
Agreed. Somebody else will pick those movies up, and I'll get them somewhere. I may have to,
Right.
Of course, my one is not going to make a difference, but so it is.
Yeah. So,
all right.
Kind of before we stop, one last thing is that, we're just talking about the big streaming services here, but there's a lot of smaller streaming services that deliver more niche content that are also lower cost and very worthwhile. We've got Shudder, Crunchyroll.
Yep. I'm a Crunchyroll subscriber. Anime and
no wonder I don't know what it is.
Well, anime and Japanese drama series.
Yep. Dropout is one of my favorites. That only costs us $5 a month, but we watch a ton of stuff on it. So,
I think the streaming realm has gotten really diverse. At the end of the day, there's so much out there you can do, and subscriber numbers can't go up forever. At the end of the day,
that's true.
Yeah,
well, the population is. So technically they could,
but they're not getting any richer to be able to afford the year-over-year cost increase of streaming services either.
Right.
So.
Right. Agreed.
Well, and you can only watch so much stuff.
Yeah,
that's my problem with so many streaming services.
Is we struggle with it as a group here. We have so much stuff to watch, and so we don't all get to it. So we hope that one of us at least does get to them. So, but yeah, that's a real challenge today too.
Right. All right. Well, it seems like a good place to wrap it up. So again, in the comments, let us know what you think about, sharing your accounts passwords with family and friends. If you think you'd be willing to pay that extra charge per month, if it was available as an option, or if you'd rather just continue doing it under the table as you are now.
Yeah, and to help evaluate your experience, go ahead and send us that username and password so that we can see how your viewing habits have been going.
We'll help you out.
Just comment down below. Let us know.
All right. Sounds good. And then be sure to check us out on our website, galacticdriftwood.space. And you can check out us and our partner podcasts on synergynation.net. So we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. We'll have some interesting movie and series trailers to check out. So until then, take care. Stream on, as they say, and we will see you next time.
Who says that, Bill?
Stream on. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Galactic Driftwood podcast. For more information and past episodes, please visit our website at galacticdriftwood.space or subscribe to us on YouTube. And now, please deactivate your cranial downlinks, collect your towels, and be sure to watch your step as you exit our gravity well.